Over the last 8 years, I've co-written with multi-platinum singer-songwriters and written and produced over 500 songs myself. In this video, I'm going to share with you 2 songwriting rules that I've learned that have completely changed the game for me. Although I've boiled it down to only 2, they are jam-packed with little tips and anecdotes that can save you lots of time and help you with your music confidence. These are just a few of the things that you can learn in the Make Your Music community. If you're curious, go to makeyourmusic.co or find the link in the description. So what is the first rule? Well, it goes like this. Imagine we have this empty glass. If we're not paying attention and we quickly fill up this glass with water, it's going to overflow, right? And we end up losing a lot of water, making a total mess out of everything. But if we pour at a steady pace, we can make sure that the glass fills perfectly and there's no mess. The problem a lot of us are making as songwriters is the first glass. We're overflowing the glass with too much water and not allowing our listeners to slowly absorb each element of our song. So as a songwriter, how do you be more like the second glass? Well, let's take an example of an older song of mine that shares many of the same characteristics as the first glass. Have a listen to this song here and try to pick out some of the mistakes.
You're out on the town, content on the outside, you got your head on right, all your plans inside, why don't you dive on down? And you think you call the shots, well I see why you think so, don't you worry.
Okay, how can we make this more like the second glass? Well, if our goal is to let the listener slowly absorb each element, then we need to find a way to balance the most important pieces. The most important pieces to a song are, in my opinion, lyrics, melody, chords, harmony. As you noticed from the example, the song starts with an overwhelming amount of information. The underlying chord progression of the song. Follow a story by listening to the lyric. And 3, we're asking them to follow a melody with the vocal. Now the listener is just stuck cleaning up spilled water or skipping the song. If we want to approach the song more like the second glass, we just need to pour the water in more slowly. For example, let's pour a little water that gives our listener a sense of harmony or chord progression. This doesn't require much of their focus and is easy for them to digest too, like this. Then we can pour in a little more water. Let's start by introducing a verse melody that includes lyrical information as well.
You're out on the town.
But here's where another problem arises. If your melody or lyrics include too much information, you might overwhelm the listener and just overflow the glass immediately. However, if they're a good fit, then the water will perfectly fill the glass and the listener will digest everything you give to them. So how can you do this in your own songs? Well, I like to use what I call the staircase method. When you're walking up the stairs in your home, you walk one step at a time. In your songs, it's a good rule of thumb to only introduce one idea at a time. However, just like walking up a staircase, you might skip a step to cover 2 steps in one go. So you may do this in your songs too, introduce a couple ideas at a time, and that's okay. So what's the first step? So the first step on your staircase is your chord progression and how it develops throughout your song. Will it remain the same throughout the whole song, or will it change in some sections? Both options are fine, but when you change your chord progression, remember, it requires your listener to absorb new information. For example, pop songs usually have very similar or consistent chord progressions throughout the whole song in order not to overwhelm the listener. Instead, they rely on the top line vocal melody for new and exciting information. That's why you don't really see a lot of jazz in the Billboard Top 40. It's just too much information. The second and third steps on your staircase is your melody and lyric. Most of the time, lyric and melody are actually on the same step, which is why it's very important that they're well balanced. One of my favorite examples of easy lyric and melody is the Beatles song, All You Need Is Love. I bet that you could sing the lyric and melody to the song out right now by memory. So let's do a little fun example. Let's change the lyric of the song, but keep the same melody. And I'm a huge Beatles fan, and I'm sorry to all the Beatles fans out there too. It might sound really bad. So let's say the lyric is, you came from nowhere. Do-do-do-do. She's running for air. Do-do-do-do-do. Flowers bloom through the air. Boom. A fire sparks a new light. terrible lyrics, right? But I bet you could still remember the melody, but you'd have a hard time remembering my lyrics, right? Because, well, for now, they just don't make sense. It's too convoluted and there's just too much information. I know this is an extreme example, but it helps us realize how we've completely ignored some of the golden songwriting rules. For example, the point of view has changed. The theme of the lyrics were vague or non-existent. And the chorus, which is what we're singing, it was just way too confusing. Basically, as a listener, I'm lost and the glass of water is just completely overflowing. The same situation can happen if you have a great lyrical message, but your melody has just too much information. So let's back up here again and do the same example, but change the melody while keeping the lyric the same. All you need is love, oh, all you need is love, all you need is love, all you need is love, love is all you need. Again, another extreme example, but brings us back to our point. Don't ask too much of your listener. They're not going to remember that melody, but they'll remember that lyric. So ask yourself, how often do your chords change? Is your melody memorable and repeatable? Do your lyrics stick to a theme or story? And do they make sense? And is the chorus simple? The thing is, even if you didn't answer yes to some of these questions, that's okay. Because as you'll see in just a moment, there is some room to ignore this. That brings us to the second songwriting rule, which I think is going to help you find your voice as a songwriter. I mean, it definitely did for me. Let's pull up another song of mine from the archives and use it as an example, although this is a bit cringy. Now, with everything you know about information overload, try to pick out another mistake you might hear while listening to this song. This one is quite tough, and you might only realize it if you're familiar with my own music.
The color of your hair is brown, the same as your eyes. Why does love come unexpectedly, completely disguised? I knew my life would change. I told my brother and my father on that very day.
So, what is the big mistake here? Well, I fell in love with this song too early, and I forgot to use the devil's lens to make sure that the song was actually finished. I didn't realize the key was just way too out of range for me. I didn't bother trying other keys. So, what is the devil's lens? The devil's lens is a method I like to use to give the song like a final sign-off. It helps me identify our first songwriting rule, information overload, but it also helps me identify other important elements too, like key. A common problem a lot of us songwriters miss is not getting an objective lens on our work. I definitely made this mistake a lot when I was first songwriting, and I still do it today. It's hard not to get caught up in that. I've learned over the years though that sometimes my first ideas aren't the best ones and they should be challenged to see what else I can come up with. This goes for everything, your chords, your lyrics, and your melody too. So how do you approach the devil's lens in your own songs? Step 1, after I finish a song, I record a voice memo of it. I either do this on my phone or if I'm producing in Logic, I'll just do a quick demo on the computer. Step 2, I give it one full day of not listening to it and then listen back to it, but with a completely different point of view. The devil's lens point of view. Step 3, it might sound simple, but if you purposely listen to find weak spots or places for improvement in your song, you will find some. The alternative is you just listen to your favorite parts of the song or parts that make you feel good. That's the fun way to listen to music, but it's not the right way to improve. So here are 4 questions you can ask yourself while listening with the devil's lens approach. What parts in the song lose my attention? Was it the arrangement, the chords? If I'm being honest with myself, are the lyrics cheesy in some areas? How can they be better? Can I repeat the chorus melody? Is it memorable? If I were to sing this song in front of Paul Simon, Paul McCartney, and James Taylor, would I be proud to show them? All of this, though, now opens up our next problem, which is, what if you really like something, but maybe you actually can't repeat the chorus melody, or it's not memorable, or maybe just some parts in your song, like the verse, just has too much information. In other words, you're breaking the rules. So sometimes rules are meant to be broken and they shouldn't be hard rules to your creativity. Think of songs like A Day in the Life. It has an enormous information overload in that song. Or Bohemian Rhapsody, which is just such a long song. I like to use these songwriting rules as, let's say, soft boundaries, and then I try to be creative within them. The thing is though, even if you nail these 2 songwriting rules, you still might be falling prey to the itty bitty mistakes that pop up during a songwriting session. So watch this video here, and I'm going to show you 3 songwriting mistakes that you should definitely avoid and might be ruining your songs. This is a checklist I make sure to go through on every single song release.